In 1977, a day etched in history, a day marred by tragedy. Two colossal Boeing 747s, symbols of modern aviation, hurtled towards an unimaginable collision. KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, two giants of the sky, on a collision course at Los Rodeos Airport on the serene Spanish island of Tenerife. In a split second, 583 souls perished in the deadliest aviation disaster in history. Today, we unravel the chilling, heart-stopping last moments before history's worst air disaster. Let's dive. The disaster. On March 27, 1977, KLM Flight 4805 was slated to touch down at Gran Canaria Airport in the Canary Islands after departing from Amsterdam, Netherlands. This Boeing 747, commanded by Captain Van Zanten, was carrying 235 passengers. Simultaneously, Pan Am Flight 1736 was also en route to Gran Canaria, having taken off from Los Angeles International Airport with a layover at JFK Airport. Captain Grubbs piloted this Boeing 747, which accommodated 380 passengers. Notably, this particular aircraft had a storied history, including being the inaugural commercial flight of the 747 in 1970 and the first 747 ever hijacked that same year. However, both flights faced an unforeseen obstacle as a bomb, planted by Canary Island separatists, exploded in the terminal of Gran Canaria Airport shortly after 1 p.m. 8 people were injured, and the airport temporarily closed as authorities launched a search for a suspected second bomb. With enough fuel to endure a considerable delay, the crew of Pan Am Flight 1736 expressed a preference to remain airborne until the search concluded. Despite their wishes, they were instructed to land at Los Rodeos Airport in nearby Tenerife, alongside numerous other diverted flights, including KLM Flight 4805. While waiting at Los Rodeos Airport, Captain Van Zanten permitted KLM passengers to disembark and wander the terminal. Among them, one passenger, who had intended to travel to Tenerife the following day regardless, opted not to reboard the aircraft. Little did she know, this decision would make her the sole survivor of the impending disaster. As both KLM and Pan Am flights faced hours of uncertainty during the Gran Canaria Airport search, Captain Van Zanten made a pivotal decision to refuel at Tenerife instead of Gran Canaria, anticipating an extended delay. The turning point. Stuck at Los Rodeos Airport for another half hour, Captain Van Zanten of KLM Flight 4805 waits anxiously for the refueling process to conclude. Meanwhile, the congestion at the airport, unprepared to handle the influx of diverted flights, worsens the situation. With both massive 747s limited in maneuverability, Pan Am Flight 1736 finds itself trapped behind the KLM aircraft, unable to depart until the refueling is complete and the runway cleared. The refueling process, unbeknownst to those involved, will have dire consequences. By the time both 747s are ready to depart, thick fog blankets the runway, severely restricting visibility. Additionally, the added fuel has made the KLM aircraft heavier and less agile, setting the stage for disaster. As KLM prepares for departure, the congested airport forces an unconventional back taxi procedure. Instead of the usual route, aircraft must taxi down the runway, execute a 180-degree turn, and take off in the opposite direction. This deviation from the norm, combined with the poor visibility caused by the fog, creates a recipe for tragedy. As KLM taxis down the runway, air traffic control instructs Pan Am to follow suit, intending to take the third exit to allow KLM to safely take off before continuing their journey. However, the thick fog adds another layer of complexity, impairing visibility for both flight crews and the control tower, which lacks ground tracking radar. Due to the poor visibility and inadequate signage, Pan Am misses the third exit as they taxi past it, forcing them to aim for the fourth exit instead. Meanwhile, after receiving ATC clearance, the KLM crew mistakenly interprets it as clearance for takeoff. They announce their readiness for takeoff, leading to confusion in the control tower, which misconstrues KLM's announcement as standing by for takeoff and responds with an "Okay."
You are clear to the Papa Beacon. Climb to and maintain flight level 900. Right turn after takeoff. Roger, clear to the Papa Beacon. Flight level 90, right turn up. We are now at takeoff. Okay, stand by for takeoff. I will call you. And we're still taxiing down the runway, Clipper 1736. Papa Alpha 1736, report runway clear. Okay, we'll report when we're clear. Thank you.
The final moments. Believing they have been cleared for takeoff, KLM begins accelerating down the runway, unaware of Pan Am taxiing towards them. Sensing a potential misunderstanding, ATC clarifies that KLM should stand by for takeoff and will be called when the runway is clear. Simultaneously, the Pan Am crew also attempts to alert that they are still in KLM's path. However, the simultaneous calls from Pan Am and the control tower interfere with each other on the radio frequency, causing radio interference. Unfortunately, neither message is heard by KLM as they continue their takeoff. A bewildered KLM flight engineer questions the pilots about Pan Am's position on the runway. Captain Van Zanten believes they are clear. However, as the KLM aircraft comes into view of Captain Grubbs and his crew, Pan Am's crew reacts with shock at the sight of the speeding 747 emerging from the fog. Captain Grubbs takes evasive action, applying full throttle and making a sharp left turn to avoid the impending collision. As Pan Am makes a sharp turn in an attempt to evade the oncoming KLM aircraft, the horror unfolds as Captain Van Zanten desperately tries to lift off, resulting in the tail of the KLM aircraft slamming into the ground. Despite the KLM's nose flying over the Pan Am, it's not enough to prevent a catastrophic collision. The KLM plows through the Pan Am, igniting a fireball upon impact, claiming the lives of all 248 aboard the KLM flight. The inferno rages on for hours as firefighters struggle to contain it. On the Pan Am aircraft, the upper deck is torn off, leaving the cockpit crew staring at the sky above. The devastating sight of the torn open fuselage reveals the extent of the destruction caused by the KLM's collision. Tragically, 335 occupants of the Pan Am flight were killed, with 61 survivors left, grappled with various injuries. As firefighters focus on the blazing wreckage of the KLM, unaware of the second craft involved, Pan Am survivors await rescue. Forced to jump down from the aircraft, many sustain injuries upon landing. The aftermath leaves 583 dead, and the 61 survivors endure varying degrees of injury, marking it as the deadliest aircraft accident in history. In the aftermath, KLM, unaware of Captain Van Zanten's death, suggests his involvement in the investigation. The investigation lays bare the circumstances leading to the disaster: the bomb explosion, diversions, late refueling decision, Sudenfog, simultaneous radio transmissions, and Pan Am's missed exit. These factors, coupled with mistakes and human error, prompted significant changes in aviation protocols. Thank you for joining me on this journey through aviation's darkest moments. Remember to subscribe for more heart-stopping stories from history's archives.